Now on the National Weather Desk, tracking Francine. The storm developed into a hurricane overnight and is expected to make landfall later today along the Gulf Coast.
It is anticipated to strengthen on approach to landfall along the coast of Louisiana. This is where watches and warnings have been in effect.
We'll also look at why there could be more than one peak in the hurricane season this year.
The latest landfalling hurricane we've seen in South Carolina was actually at Halloween.
Wildfires across the West are growing.
I just said be yourself. Everybody loves Ryan. He does such a good job with all of his jobs. I just said be yourself. Everybody loves Ryan. He does such a good job with all of his jobs. He's a natural.
Right now on the National Weather Desk, tracking Francine. The storm developed into a hurricane overnight and is expected to make landfall later today along the Gulf Coast.
It is anticipated to strengthen on approach to landfall along the coast of Louisiana. This is where watches and warnings have been in effect.
We'll also look at why there could be more than one peak in the hurricane season this year.
The latest landfalling hurricane we've seen in South Carolina was actually at Halloween.
Wildfires across the West are growing, forcing thousands to leave their homes.
Gotta go, you gotta go.
West Virginia is facing the worst drought in nearly 2 decades. We'll look at how it's impacting the state.
These trees should still be mainly green, but it's looking more like October instead.
And a lesson on how steam fog forms.
From our nation's capital, this is the National Weather Desk.
I'm meteorologist Matt Ritter. Francine is now a Category 1 hurricane and is expected to make landfall later today in Louisiana. A state of emergency is now in effect as the state prepares for life-threatening storm surge, high winds, and heavy rain. Let's turn to meteorologist Jen Collins, who is tracking Francine for us this morning.
Now here's a look at the actual storm. Maximum winds are 90 miles per hour, Category 1 hurricane as of the 5 o'clock advisory. It is anticipated to strengthen on approach to landfall along the coast of Louisiana. This is where watches and warnings have been in effect. Eventually, it will move inland by the end of this week, becoming a remnant low, producing heavy rainfall threat across parts of Tennessee, northern Mississippi, and the Ohio River Valley here over the next few days. That will be the primary concern with Francine. Elsewhere in the Atlantic Basin, we're monitoring 2 other areas for potential development. The odds of decrease for Invest 92L in the central Atlantic now is a low chance, and then a high chance of development for a tropical wave that moved off the coast of Africa. This will continue to work its way to the west here over the next few days, likely remaining out over open waters of the Atlantic.
And this is video our storm chaser Brett Adair captured in New Orleans. Heavy rains from the outer bands of Francine are already impacting the northern Gulf Coast. This video was taken along Interstate 10. The rain will only get heavier as the day goes on. Residents in Morgan City, Louisiana, where the center could make landfall, have been preparing for Francine's arrival. Ivan Rodriguez has their story.
Flooding rainfall, powerful winds, and potentially life-threatening storm surge. People along the Gulf Coast are preparing for the strength of Hurricane Francine.
This will be a mid-afternoon to late night landfall, so that brings a specific element. We would ask everyone to stay off the roads and remain vigilant.
The last time the state experienced a hurricane was in 2021. Category 4 storm Ida decimated the town of Grand Isle. Over the past week, Hurricane Francine strengthened significantly in the record-warm Gulf of Mexico. Storm surge watches and warnings stretch along the coast from northeastern Texas to the Mississippi-Alabama line, with several evacuation orders across Louisiana and the Gulf Coast. People are preparing across the state for prolonged heavy rainfall.
That's going to push a number of rivers up to and even above flood stage, so that's going to be a problem.
Hurricane Francine is expected to drench parts of the lower and middle Mississippi River Valley through the rest of the week, potentially flooding roads, damaging homes, and causing widespread power outages. Some places in southeast Louisiana could see as much as a foot of rain.
It is important that people adhere to the warnings that their local officials put out. Then guess what? You end up saving lives as well.
And Francine, of course, will have different impacts depending on location. Meteorologist Evan Chikvara is in Alabama and looks at how your distance from the center of a tropical system determines the impacts that you feel and also the severity of those impacts. He looks at what Alabama residents can expect to see from Francine.
We'll be tracking Francine as it approaches the Gulf Coast. So I wanted to talk a little bit about what to expect depending on where you are in proximity to the center of a tropical system. This is not what Francine will look like, just an illustration here. If you're on the west of the center, northerly winds, drier air, less rain, nothing severe. On the east side, or the eastern half of the storm, southerly winds, widespread rain, occasional wind gusts as well. That's what we'll see here most likely. And you can also get tropical tornadoes. Now, every storm is different, but a lot of the times when we see these come up the Mississippi, we will have the potential for tropical tornadoes. Still a couple days out, but what you can expect, heavy soaking rains Wednesday night into Thursday. It'll be breezy as well in this outlined area. Going to see the majority of the rainfall. We could see a beneficial 1 to 3 inches of rain as this moves through. And let me remind you, this would be a good thing considering our latest drought monitor has the entire state in some level of drought. We'll keep watching it as we move through the week.
And we're in the middle of typical peak hurricane season this week, but is that going to be the only peak this season? Myrtle Beach meteorologist Jenna Warner has more.
September 10th is the technical peak of hurricane season, but climatologically, the most active or the peak is that second week of September, and it varies actually between September 10th into September 12th. Once we get past this peak and really the month of September, we start to see activity decline, but we do still have a October peak, and then finally the end of a hurricane season approaches for November 30th. So all of September, it is the most active month for the tropics because there's such a large area where stuff can form within the Atlantic, the Caribbean, the Gulf. This is the largest area that we can see tropical activity form climatologically across the Atlantic's main development region, which is why we have that peak for September 10th, or really that second week of September. But that doesn't mean that we're not going to get storms after the peak. In fact, South Carolina is no stranger to seeing storms through after the peak, September into the beginning of November. The latest landfalling hurricane we've seen in South Carolina was actually at Halloween. That was back in 1899. This week is the technical peak. It is still always a good idea to be on top of the forecast as we head through November 30th.
And several wildfires continue to burn in the western United States, well over 50,000 acres among California, Nevada, and Oregon. Amy Kiley looks at the fires burning in the California area.
This is an emergency evacuation.
Wildfires are forcing tens of thousands out of their homes in western states.
You gotta go, you gotta go.
In Orange County, California, the airport fire is expanding rapidly after igniting Monday.
40-foot flames, it moving, changing every 10 minutes.
The fire's been moving in a way that's hard to predict. About 1,400 area homes are under evacuation orders. People there are grabbing their pets and fleeing.
Everything that's important in my car, and we're heading down the hill, and we just hope we're going to be unpacking and having a beer to that.
2 other blazes are so close, this video points toward all 3 from one spot. The line fire is behind 4,800 home evacuations in San Bernardino County. The bridge fire in Angeles National Forest is fewer than 30 miles from L.A.
And the Davis fire continues burning in Nevada's Washoe Valley. More than 5,000 acres have been torched. Firefighters are working to get control of the flames by air. Kim Burrows reports this angle is crucial because of the steep terrain.
Tanker 137 rolling at 1251.
This Cocker's actually doing some really good work. I think if anything, we could keep the seeds working on that piece.
19 helicopters focused on a steep canyon in shifts. They've been filling up buckets in Washoe Lake to drop on the fire. The larger aircraft, air tankers and single-engine air tankers, and a DC-10 are dousing fire retardant on the fire, too, on the north end of this fire. And 4 super scoopers carrying 1,600 gallons each of water that they fill up at Lake Tahoe in the belly of the plains. That's really spectacular to watch.
So it's kind of like a big battle or a war. Air support can help win the war.
The air attack base at the Stead Airport is the hub for refueling aircraft and reloading retardant. They have the pump capacity for the retardant and the ramp space for large aircraft.
We have 5 tanks that hold 10,000 gallons of retardant each, and we have to have multiple loads a day of retardant come into those tanks because we're going through it so fast on this fire.
And check out this time lapse of the airport fire in California. It shows how fast the flames swept over Santiago Peak and the Trabuco Canyon area. The fire started Monday afternoon and only took roughly 3 hours to swell to 1,900 acres. It has since ballooned to more than 19,000 acres, and it is 0% contained. Thousands of people were forced to evacuate their homes. The flames also burned very close to those communication towers. And coming up on the National Weather Desk, it's the worst drought West Virginia has seen in 20 years. We'll look at how it's impacting trees in this state. And we'll look at how wildfire smoke can change how we see the color of the sun.
I'm meteorologist Charlie Lopresti with Look at the Northeast. We have a great stretch of weather on the way in the Northeast, courtesy of this big ridge of high pressure carved out by the jet stream. We'll enjoy a lot of sunshine and some pretty warm temperatures that will be building late week and that will extend into the weekend. We'll start you off into early Wednesday with temps in the 40s and 50s, but by afternoon, today we should have high temperatures running in the 70s. It's a great looking afternoon with low humidity. If anything, it gets a little bit warmer late week with many of you touching the 80s by Thursday and Friday.
I'm Chief Meteorologist Gerard Jubaili. Here's a look at the mid-Atlantic region. High pressure sticking around for the next couple of days means we will stay mostly dry, although temperatures may tick up just a bit in the coming days and just a few clouds. We're not expecting any rainfall anytime soon during this pattern that's going to stick around. So low to mid 80s tomorrow afternoon, except in the mountains in the 70s. And of course, we're going to keep some of the same temperatures, just maybe a degree or two cooler, and a slight change in the humidity coming up.
I'm meteorologist Vitas Reed. Here's a look at your southeast forecast highs. 90 in Nashville, 83 in Raleigh, 82 in Macon, upper 70s around Mobile and Pensacola. We're looking at plenty of cloud cover, showers associated with what's going to be Hurricane Francine moving onshore over parts of Louisiana, bringing heavy rain and gusty winds through New Orleans, also down towards Lake Charles and down as far south as Jacksonville, getting some flooding, a lot of rainfall, as much as 5 to 7 up to 10 inches of rain possible with this storm.
Weather Window, presented by the National Weather Desk.
Images and video of what stormy weather brought to the Rochester area Monday, from flooding like this to snapped trees, even one reported to be struck by lightning. A couple of tornadoes were confirmed in the Buffalo area. A foggy snapshot over Rochester Tuesday morning revealed patches of crisp blue sky. And here's a view of steam fog lifting over the Missouri River.
For more content like this, like the National Weather Desk on Facebook.
Well, the California wildfires are many miles away from the Midwest, but those fires are affecting their sunsets. Meteorologist Garrett Hyde explains with an experiment.
As the latest forecasts show more smoke moving into our area throughout this week, we can expect to see more of these vibrant colors. But why? First, we need to know why the sky is blue. It is blue because of a process known as Rayleigh scattering. Essentially, when white light hits our atmosphere, the light contains all colors of the rainbow, and because of the scattering regime, blue light is actually nearly 10 times more likely to be scattered in our atmosphere, causing the sky during the day to appear more blue. But the longer this packet of light travels, it loses those cooler colors, leaving just those warmer colors unscattered, meaning by the time we get to the sun rises and sun sets, we primarily see those red, oranges, and yellows, creating those crimson skylines. And there's actually a simple experiment we can do that shows this effect quite well. By adding just a little bit of milk to some water here, we can simulate how well this works. When we look at the tank from the side or from where the light is being shown, we see a lot more of that blue scattering back. However, the longer that light travels through, the more it becomes red, like at sunset. So why does wildfire smoke make things even more red? Well, that's because smoke is sending up more particles into the air for the light to bounce off and create more scattering, which we can actually simulate by adding just a little bit more milk to this mixture, causing an even hazier look and pushing that more yellowy light back into the reds.
In Pennsylvania, the lack of summer rain has prompted some concern about how soon fall leaves will change in some southern counties and how vibrant the colors will be when they do switch. Some are wondering if it'll impact fall tourism and festivals. Local officials aren't so worried, though.
I don't think it'll have much of a factor on our fall foliage festival just because our town is so beautiful the way it is. People love our festival because there's so much to do. So I don't think the lack of fall foliage will determine any of the outcomes.
Prime leaf peeping season in Pennsylvania is typically from mid-September through mid-October. And portions of West Virginia are in what some are calling an historic drought. Many people in the area have noticed the impacts the dry weather is having on trees in the area, but more importantly, it's creating a risk of wildfires in the state. Meteorologist Brandon Stover has more.
We've seen one of the worst droughts in years across West Virginia and also parts of Ohio. The latest drought monitor shows extreme to even exceptional drought conditions. Not only has it been devastating to farmers, but it's also causing some unusual things to happen. These trees should still be mainly green, but it's looking more like October instead. And here's the thing, they started to change as early as July. The trees are simply thirsty. Since May, Charleston has been 5 inches below their normal rainfall, while Huntington has been over 4 inches below. That lack of rainfall especially hurts during the summer when we typically see most of our rain. Plus, the hot sun zaps even more moisture out of the ground. The result? Trees aren't producing as much chlorophyll. That's what makes the leaves green. With less green, antioxidants in the leaves are seen more instead. These compounds can take on the form of yellow, orange, and red. Unfortunately, during a severe drought, the color usually isn't as bright, and the peak foliage doesn't last as long. In fact, since the leaves aren't as healthy due to a lack of moisture, they tend to become brittle and fall off the trees early and often. This can set the stage for an early fall fire season, which will likely be intense this year due to a few reasons. First, we had a fairly wet spring. This means more plant growth. Second, since then, we've been in a major drought, allowing all of those plants to become an ideal fuel source for fires. And lastly, leaves will fall earlier this autumn. That's also a time when days are typically warmer with lower humidity. These type of conditions can lead to large, fast-moving fires that are hard to control. If the tropics don't wake up soon, or this pattern remains the same, the Central Appalachians and a good portion of the Ohio Valley will likely see a historic season of fires.
And it may seem like a long time before the first snowflakes fall, but in northern Michigan, officials are already deep in their preparations for winter weather's arrival. And they're asking for a little help from local schools to put the finishing touches on their plows. Mark Scollett has the story.
We are barely into fall, but here at the Grand Traverse County Road Commission, they're already preparing for winter.
We're always a season ahead. We're ready to go. We have our winter blades in, we have our salt in, we have our sand in, we got the trucks in right now. Believe it or not, we're going through them, getting them ready to plow snow, so we're ready when it comes.
All the trucks are getting a thorough mechanical checkup to make sure when the roads get icy and snowy, they're ready to roll. But before plows are added to some of them, an opportunity exists.
I think this will be the third year that we've done the Paint a Plow program.
Yep, while some of these giant plows are standard issue orange, a few show the past efforts of local students whose schools chose to take part in the Paint a Plow program. The Road Commission drops off the blank canvas plow and the students get to work.
So it's pretty much an open canvas, however they want to decorate it. Oil-based paints do seem to work the best on the steel of the plow.
When the students are done and the plow is painted, the Road Commission comes back, picks it up, and puts it in service. The kids get a kick out of the painting.
It's fun when you get a school together and they put their school pride into it.
And the drivers here get a customized addition to their work truck.
I think the drivers do enjoy having something different out there and seeing people's reactions, getting the thumbs up, and when they go by plowing.
It's a little bit of fun, adding a pop of color and character to a plow that does its best to limit the number of snow days. And in the process, turns a fleet of otherwise impressive but unremarkable trucks into something worthy of a second look.
I think it's great community outreach, keeping people aware of the plows and how big they are. When the kids actually get a chance to see them up close, they realize how big they are. So when they see us coming through, they're waiting for the school bus, maybe they'll take that step back or pay attention when the plow comes through.
As temperatures cool this time of year, you might see some more steam fog over the waters. Meteorologist Sharon Ray explains how that forms.
That time of year when our nights cool down, we start to see some of this. This was taken last fall. I took this over the Missouri River of steam fog. You see why it's called steam fog. It's these little wisps of fog that rise over the river and rise into the air, looking like steam. That is caused by, of course, that cool air we're now seeing in the mornings. The water temperatures, though, take longer to cool down in the fall, so they tend to be warmer than the actual air temperatures when we get these cool mornings. And as you get that cool air overriding that very warm air, the water vapor over that warm air over the water, continuing to rise into that cool air, causes little droplets to form. It condenses in the cooler air and causes steam fog.
If you're looking for more weather content like this, be sure to check us out on social media. You can find us on all your favorite platforms, including Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, X, and TikTok. Just search the National Weather Desk. Time now for a short break, but first we soar over Miami Beach.
Good Wednesday morning, everyone. I'm meteorologist Andrew Buckmichael. Dry across the Midwest for the day today. We've got a lot of sunshine and high temperatures in the 80s and even some lower 90s on the map. Now, tomorrow, we're going to start to see some rain sneaking its way into the far south from Francine, while most of the rest of the Midwest still continues to stay pretty similar temperature-wise, mid to upper 80s for a lot of us. And then again, that rain trying to push its way into the southern part of the Midwest on Friday from Francine. Got a few showers across the northern plains.
Good morning, I'm meteorologist Alex Garcia. Here's a look at your regional weather. We're starting off really nice, particularly out here in Oklahoma. Amarillo, temperatures into the 60s, pretty warm and humid on down toward the south. Keeping an eye on Francine. We'll be moving onshore a little bit later today, bringing some heavy rain into Louisiana and into Mississippi and Alabama. Otherwise, temperatures will be pretty much like summer, late summer at least. I'm meteorologist Alex Garcia. That's a look at your regional weather.
Well, hi there, everybody, and a happy Wednesday to you. I'm meteorologist Shannon O'Donnell. Out west, we still have a whole lot of heat and some gusty winds to go with that heat out into the deserts of Salt Lake, Las Vegas, back into northern Arizona, too. High fire danger as a result, but some wildfire ending. Hopefully, wet weather starting to return to the Pacific Northwest. That will help drench things a little bit. But again, the red flag warning's up in place for Utah and Nevada throughout the day today. And that's the scene from here.
You are watching the National Weather Desk.
Well, today marks 23 years since the terrorist attacks of September 11th, 2001. In remembrance of that day, we share with you now views of the Flight 93 Memorial in Somerset County, Pennsylvania. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. I'm meteorologist Matt Ritter. Make it a great Wednesday, and we'll see you right back here tomorrow for the National Weather Desk.